Well, welcome to the True Man Podcast. So I really love talking with ex-athletes and athletes and coaches. I got to get that out of my mouth because so much of my life has revolved around just being involved in athletics. And I love the general discussions that pop out of what being on the field of play or on the court taught them about life. It's deeper than you think. And that is definitely the case with today's successful guest. So welcome to the show, an Atlanta native, J.R. McNair. And I would be remiss if I didn't tell you he is a graduate of Wofford College in Spartanburg, South Carolina, where I moved from. J.R. enjoyed a successful collegiate and international football career before returning to the States to continue his entrepreneurial pursuits. He is considered, this is cool, one of the nation's foremost startup experts. J.R. has assisted over 9,100 small businesses and startups. He is the founder of the Velocity Accelerator. That is a Georgia-based startup accelerator that focuses on the tech, medical, and ag industries. So here's a man I'm convinced has kicked butt on the field and off. Welcome to the True Man Podcast, JR.
Hey, thanks so much, Mike. Listen, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here. I appreciate all your time, and hopefully we can share some good things for your audience.
Yeah, no, I know there's good stuff coming. So JR and I had a fabulous discussion the other day about our days back in old Spartanburg. But I thought we'd start off with this. You know, in the United States, we're so blessed to have such a wide array of collegiate and professional sports, but something like football now, that's a real gladiator sport. It's the ultimate portrayal, I think, of masculinity. It's violent, it's tough, it's fast. You literally risk life and limb on almost every play. JR, tell us, what did you love about playing football? And maybe what was your least favorite part about playing football?
Well, you know, the thing that I love probably the most about playing football was, football, like any sport, it's a physical sport, it's a mental sport. It's a sport where it kind of pulls together all of these different skill sets that you have to really utilize them all in the same time frame when you're executing in a game scenario. And so, and the beautiful thing about football is that it's like this orchestra, or like this tapestry where you have 11 people and a coach, and they have to, in order for this thing to work perfectly, they all have to be working together now, and it has to work for it to get done. So that's the beautiful thing. I think the football is probably the greatest team sport ever, because
not that you're biased or anything, right?
Well, not that I'm biased with it, but the fact that it's so many people that have to be on the same page for it to work, right? So, and then not only that, but then you have these coaches that have to not only design a play, but then they have to make sure that they give the insight to make sure that all the team members are able to execute this at a high level to end up, if you're on offense, penetrating the defense, or if you're on defense, end up stopping that particular offense. So there's so many like business similarities with football, but I would say, I love, being out there and just competing. I think that's just the biggest thing is, that the people that you're going against, they have taken out a great deal of their time to prepare for what you're doing. And just to go out there and be able to compete and strive to be the best. I think that's the thing I love the most. The thing I probably hated the most was just, like summer practices. And it was like
2 days.
Look, oh my goodness. Like having, I still kind of get flashbacks when I smell fresh cut grass. I'm like, oh my goodness, I just get scared.
It's that time of year. Yep.
Yeah, right. So it's those things are hard. The training, if you're really doing it right, I mean, the training in football is on another level if you're really doing it right. And you have to prepare yourself off season to make sure that you can do what you want to do in season. So yeah.
So now you touched on this, so I'm going to go there.
Okay.
What are the parallels that you have found? How have you transitioned from being a gladiator to how have you transitioned that to the business world and achieving success?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think there's so many parallels. I mean, just in sports and life, but specifically on the football field, one of the things, and I always joke with people all the time. I say, how was I this great athlete that and I was a running back, okay, and I never really knew high school, college, and playing overseas. I never really learned how to catch like that, right? And people would say, I mean, I couldn't catch a cold. I tell this to people, like, and it was never frightening to me to go against 350-pound men. It was never frightening to me to hit anybody, to do anything like that. That never scared me at all. I mean, not in the least bit.
Now,
I mean,
you have to touch on this because, like, at Wofford, now I kind of backtracking here, take you away, but at Wofford, you guys had an incredibly unique offense given the modern day offenses. So when you say you can't catch, you didn't need to.
No, you didn't need to at all. And I think that's something that, our coaches, when they recruited me, they saw me in high school. I mean, we ran kind of a similar offense in high school. I mean, my senior year, I almost rushed for 2,000 yards in high school, and which that was the first year that I really started the year, the whole year. And my and so with that, that really built up my leadership skills. I think a lot of the players, they want to. So in the off season, if you don't prepare for the season, then when you show up, you can tell. You can tell who hit it really hard in the off season, and you can tell who didn't. Okay, and that was one of the things with me. Nobody showed up to camp in better shape than I did. Okay, nobody did. And I don't care if that was high school. I don't care if that was college. I don't care if that was playing overseas. Nobody showed up in better shape. Nobody showed up, with the games and the things that I did, because I knew that was the key to me succeeding. I knew it was that preparation ahead of time. And so when people saw that, first off, they said, oh, okay, well, this guy isn't just talking. It's a lot of guys that go in there and they just, oh, I want to be a leader. I never did that. I didn't really, as a matter of fact, I did not really even want to, on the field a lot of times, have to be that leader, okay? But guess what? I knew that if I had to be, I was going to be that leader, okay? The quarterback typically is who you'd say is your leader on the field, or they should be. That's how it's really designed for the quarterback to be that lead person.
Yep.
And even though I had some good people that led that were quarterbacks in high school and in college, I really did not see that true quarterback leadership role where they were actually to step up until I played overseas. And I'll say this about a friend of mine, Doug Bowman. He was over there overseas, and I mean, man, when he led, it was like, man, I was there like, what do you need me to do? Do I need to jump in the fire for you? Whatever, when you have leadership like that, or people that are able to stand up and say, hey, look, I got you, and you trust them, okay, that they're not just doing it for whatever other reasons. And I'm not saying that, any of the other quarterbacks that I played with had other reasons. All I'm saying is that it was very evident. His leadership skills weren't just evident on the field when it was playtime. It was off the field. It was, hey, in practice, they really took that leadership role. And so, but in high school and in college, I had to really be more so of that vocal leader and that leader on that, in which I was fine with, and it developed my skills. But people will not lead unless they know that you're actually willing to put some stuff in yourself. right? They're not just going to follow you just because you say I'm the leader, and you're not doing what needs to happen. You're not doing what needs to be done. You're going to have to show them through your actions that you're truly a leader. And I think even in the business world, as we go into the business world, you tell your employees to do something that you weren't willing to do yourself and that you haven't done yourself. Okay. Now I'm very big on working on the business, not in the business. So I believe that businesses should get to a point to where their businesses they're not as actively so much involved in the day-to-day operations of their business. They should have businesses and systems set up to where those things run. And that's also parallel if we look at certain great programs like the Patriots programs, or you look at great programs like Alabama's program there. The coach has designed phenomenal systems to where it really doesn't matter who's in the driver's seat, who's at quarterback. Like, and people may have a little thing about this. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to call it Belichick over Brady. And it's not a sports book at all. It's a business book. It's really talking about the benefits of systems and leadership and over really just having like this amazing talent. As we know, Tom Brady, when he started in the game, I mean, he went late rounds. So this guy obviously was not that good coming out of college. Okay. He just wasn't that good, but he got into a system. He was hungry enough. Okay. So there were some things that he had to do, but he got into a great system to where over a period of time, that system made him the greatest quarterback of all time. Okay. But he did not come into the league as the greatest quarterback of all time.
Right.
So when we look in business, I believe that if we create the right systems, if we are able to provide the right leadership, that we can bring in people in our organization who may not be the top people, but with the right system and the right leadership, you can develop them into the best employees in their position in the world. I do strongly believe that. So, but it's all in how you design your culture. It's all in how you lead your team, and on that end. So yeah,
this is so awesome. I love your passion, and one of the things I definitely picked up on, because we had an intimate business discussion the other day, I think, and I can tell how passionate you are. The whole idea about preparation is what your leadership's all about: preparing to win and finding ways to develop that. And I really sense that in you, and that's how you create the systems. And I think what's interesting about a lot of people right now, and I see this in other entrepreneurs, I see this in businesses. I've seen this in me from time to time over the years, and I've learned from it. And that is, you have to prepare to win and show up every day. And not every day is going to be a success, but you got to show up every day and figure out, well, if yesterday didn't work, how can I make it work today? So how do you help businesses do that?
Well, that's a great point that you raised. I think that great businesses don't become great businesses. And this is something that I heard in one of the books. It's a good book I always tell entrepreneurs to read, called The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. In that book, great businesses aren't made. They're not really developed. They start as great businesses. Okay. And so how does a business start as a great business? Well, that leader, that person is designing that business or designing that. They're setting forth the standards of what they know this great business will form into. Yeah. So they're already acting like this business is great. They're already going and executing as this business is great on day one. Okay. And so they don't wait, we're going to develop in this great. No, they say, you know what, I'm going to design this from the beginning to be a great business. I'm going to make sure that everything that we do, our virtues, our values, that what we stand for, what we don't stand for, that these are things that will be known in the very beginning of the company. And I think this is so key, because we can't expect for our people to exceed our vision of what we want. Okay. Yeah. And we have to be able to see that first, and we have to be able to let them know that those standards that they have to meet those standards right now. We have to meet those standards right now. Am I the CEO that this company needs? Okay. And when I answer that question, no, I need to go find me a new CEO to run this company. Correct.
Right. Right. Yeah. Because people are going to achieve to the level of the vision. Right.
Correct.
Correct. So here's something that's interesting. I mean, you know what's going on in let's just call it corporate America, I guess. That seems to be where everybody's pulling the statistics from with this great resignation thing. So there could be somebody listening to this right now and they're going, man, I have this great idea, but I don't know, they kind of get a hem-haw around. And how can somebody, I mean, you've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs. And I don't know that there's probably any magic potion, but if somebody's listening to this right now and they're like, I got a great idea for me, how can I turn this into a business and get myself out of corporate America and take control of my life? Well, what advice would you give them?
Yeah. So first off, I would say that number one, you have to be clear on what you want. Okay. I mean, and this is not really something in business. Like, what does success look like for you? Like, period. Like, where do you want to live at? Like, what does who do you want to be with? How much money do you need to be making? Do you want to have a company that you pass down to your kids, or do you want to sell a company? Right? Are you trying to just have enough money just to live good? Or better yet, what does living good mean? To some people, living good may be $100,000. To some people, that may $1 million may be the bare minimum that they need. Okay. And so whatever that is, you need to define that first. And I think that is the first thing you have to always define. Then I say, once you've gotten that, then you need to say, okay, what business can help me get that? Okay. What business can help me get those dreams? Because one of a friend of mine, he's a subject matter expert in the blue collar space, but he does a lot of coaching. He took a company, from really nothing to eight plus figures in about 2 years, 3 years in a space, which you can do that in the blue collar space, which a lot of people don't understand, especially if you have various high ticket items. But with that being said, somebody, he said, well, look, one of the things he was talking about a particular baker, and the baker really, regardless of how hard they tried, they would only make X amount of money. And that's true. I mean, you pick your fields, you pick your areas. There is a cap really to the amount of money that can be made in certain industries. Now, there are exceptions. Now, you will have exceptions to where there are the outliers, but but if you pick a really good industry, even if you're average, okay, then you will be able to succeed. Now, if you pick a very tough industry or something that's really not really growing that hard, and even if you're exceptional, you're the best in your space, if something goes wrong, you probably could have your whole business wiped out, because the industry that you're in is just not that phenomenal of an industry. So you want to select an industry that's growing. Okay. You want to select something that, I have a DCD framework. I call it, and it's desire, capacity, and demand. And this is something very simple that people can understand. Desire is the number one thing that you need to understand. Am I passionate about this? Do I want to do this thing? Okay. Or this is something that I currently like to do, or is this something that I want to do in the future? Okay. That's desire. Number two is capacity. Can I do this thing? Okay. Can I carry out what I'm saying that I'm going to do? Okay. This is probably the easiest to feel for, because if you don't have the capacity to do it, you can always hire capacity to do it. And the last thing is demand. Not only are people interested in this, but are people willing to pay you for this, right? If you have demand and you have capacity without desire, when the going gets tough, you're going to quit because you're not passionate about it. Okay. If you have desire and capacity without demand, you're gonna be able to you're gonna be passionate about it, gonna be willing, you're gonna be able to carry it out, but nobody's gonna pay for it. Okay. if you have desire and demand without capacity, you can't fulfill on it. But as I mentioned before, if you can hire somebody, you can always have them be able to fulfill or carry that thing out. For example, I have a container home business. Well, I'm not a construction guy. I'm a real estate development guy. I'm a finance guy. I understand business very well, but I'm not a construction guy. So I had to hire construction people to help me to carry that out.
So it's you're as good as the people you surround yourself with. I mean, right? Like, it's back to the football analogy. You can't break away from a man. It's like, if you didn't have an offensive line, you're probably not going to carry the ball very far.
Correct.
So how do people find the right? And this is true in life. I think the analogies are really the same, because it's not uncommon for somebody to be running around with the wrong crowd, whether they're at work or in their personal life. How do you surround yourself with the right people, with the right mental attitude, so that you can, because really what you're all about, I mean, you're a great business mind because you've been doing it for a long time. You know, you and I were pushing lawnmowers when we were really young.
Correct.
But this is about your mentality, right? Your belief that you can believe. And so, I mean, is it fair to say that's really what holds a lot of people back?
Well, to answer your first question about how you put the people around you, first off, I would say that in order to attract the right people, you have to have the right vision for them to be attracted to. It's like bait, when you're going fishing. If you're going fishing and you're throwing out wigglers and you're trying to catch a particular fish, they're not even gonna be attracted to that bait, right? You may need minnows for certain fish. You may need, other things for certain fish. So the bait is really your vision. It's really what that whole thing is. And I think this is something that's extremely important for companies as they're trying to recruit people, because in this great resignation, people, they can work anywhere. I mean, it's so many jobs that's available. Now, some people in the marketplace, and this is a whole different thing, aren't qualified for the jobs that are in the marketplace, right? So they need to go back and re-qualify themselves for the current jobs that exist in this current marketplace. And that's going to be even more important as we get further into the technological advancements of man. We're going to need people to have other training in areas that they may not have right now. So, but with that being said, say that those things are given and they have the training. Well, as a company, you're going to need to make sure that you have the right vision. And I would say it's one of the guys, I think he runs I think it's either BlackRock or he has it's like the biggest private equity fund company in the world. But anyway, he said something. He said it's a whole lot easier to run a big company than it is a small business. And he says because when you're a big company, you have that big vision, you can attract that grade A talent.
Yeah, right.
So people who they're like, hey, you know what? I want to work like it. I was listening to a podcast. A guy was on there. He was saying that one of his friends was on there looking on Google for this rare code on how to code stuff. And he said, all of a sudden, the screen went black. And then these words came up on the screen that said, hey, you seem like one of us. Please send us an email here at Google, because we want you to, and he got a job from Google. So Google, some way.
Like that? That's actually kind of freaky.
It's very freaky, to be honest with you. But he kept searching for this rare code, okay? And he was searching on how to build it. And somehow, I mean, on Google, on their algorithm, it's on their, that's their website.
It kind of makes sense now that I think about it.
Yeah, so they're searching on their algorithm and they're looking like, this is somebody that keeps searching about this thing. If he knows how to do this, he's going to be a good fit for our organization. So they ended up, and that's how it's an article out there on this too. You can read it. It's an article. This guy said how he got his job with Google, and this is how it happened. And so it was kind of creepy, like the Matrix or something like that. But Neo at the front when they're but anyway, but This is how he got recruited. But people are like, man, you know what? I want to, if they want to work for companies that are doing good things, that are changing the world, and that they could feel like what they're doing, that they're not just going there and gathering a check. Now, there may be certain people that say, hey, I'm just coming here to get the check. To me, I don't want any of those people in my company. Okay. If you're just here for a check, then go get a check somewhere else. I don't need you in my company. Right. I need people who want to, yeah, I want you to make money, of course, but that should not be the primary reason that you're with me. You know, you need to be able to somehow tell me why you chose us versus why you chose somebody else. What stood out about us that made you want to come and work for us? But it first starts with us putting out that vision. And like I said, it takes the same amount of effort to achieve a large dream as it does a small dream, right? It takes the same amount of time it's going to take your life, right? It's gonna take you dedicating your life to that thing. So you might as well go after something that's substantial enough, you know? And so because in that way, it will be easier for you to attract the right people. Okay, you will have to think differently about how you go about it. Okay, so it's going to cause you to think differently. Okay, and then your team is going to have to think differently. You know, I'll leave this as the last example. There's a movie, a guy, he made a movie. He only had like $5 million budget. This movie ended up crushing the box office, but he had a very small budget. But he was like, and because he had that small budget, he had to think creatively on how to really get this done. And he had to think about differently. He won all these awards for it and everything. And they came back and they asked him, they said, how did you do this? He said, well, because I only had $5 million, which making big time movie, that is not a lot of money at all. And so, and he said, I had to think differently. He said, if I would have had a lot of money to do this, if I would have had $50 million, $60 million to do this, he said the movie wouldn't have been a fraction of good, okay? Because he would have had all these resources to end up figuring these things out or trying to make things happen. But because he had those limited resources, he had to think about it. But his vision was still big enough to where it was able to attract the right people. He said, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make something that has not been made before. It was really one of those unique movies that you never really seen before. So I'm bringing that up just to say that your vision will attract the people, and you have to be intentional about it. Recruiting is a job, and as a CEO, as a leader, that needs to be your number one job. Really, is recruiting. Okay, yeah. Especially if you want to work in a business that's not so active to where if you're not in there, the business is not running. And if you're growing a larger business, most of the leaders of these companies are not going to want you to be working so hard. You're putting in 80 hours a week because you're not going to have enough time to end up working on the business, because you would be entangled in all the departments and everything that you're doing, and you won't even be able to see the light from the day. So.
I got to tell you, I love this whole conversation around vision, because it's such a key component of just success in life. And it takes me back to the conversation we kind of started with the other day, which really intrigued me. A lot of people would be surprised to find out how international the Greenville, Spartanburg area is. And when you got done with college, you had some great opportunity. And it would have been really easy for you to fall in line, but you didn't.
Totally.
You went with your gut, and you went, I think I got something here to build on for me. What was it about your vision at that point, at a young age, where you went, I'm betting on me, not them?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, for me, I always said, most people don't realize I started businesses before, when I was in high school and when I was young. So, I mean, I started my first business at 10. I bought my first piece of real estate, which was a piece of land in Carroll County in West Georgia when I was 14, So I had been studying real estate and business for really
shark.
Yeah. And so for me, I already had a path to how I was going to make money. Just through real estate, really. I had a path on how I was going to utilize the real estate one of the things that that I couldn't do, I couldn't get finance for a house before I was 18 because I didn't have a job that made enough money.
Right.
Okay. And so I was able to get finance for a piece of land when I was 14. But I had all this knowledge about real estate, and I wasn't even, gonna go to college, but I wanted to, but I got a full scholarship. I was good enough on the football field to get that full scholarship, and I wanted to have an opportunity to potentially play professional football. And so, and that was really, so I went to college. I just ended up being good at college. I was good at my grades, and, and I was able to, manage my schedule, play, be the captain on the football team, captain on the track team, being student body president and all these things, which ended up at the end of my college career, gave me a lot of opportunities for 3 six-figure job offers. And I turned all those down to start. I said, this was my thing. I said, first off, if they're offering this to me, even though, I've proven what I've done in college and I've proven what I could manage in college, I said, man, I'm just 21 and I'm just graduating. I'm just 21. So at the end of the day, if they are willing to give me all of this now, and making $100,000 on a job is a lot now, but it was definitely a lot back then when I was graduating from college.
Yeah.
And to get 3 offers like that, everybody thought I was flat that crazy, but to turn those down. But I said, hey, if they're willing to give me all of this stuff now with no experience, like, man, I can take a chance on myself. And plus, I wanted to play professional football. So that was really the reason. So I said, if I'm going to take this chance, I'm going to go now. If I'm going to ever have an opportunity to play, I'm going to do this now. And I just said, hey, because I can always go and get a job. People, they need quality people. So I said, if I have to, go back, I can get something now. Later, even if today, God forbid anything ever happened and I didn't want to run a business anymore, like, hey, I can go and get a pretty decent job, making high 6 figures, maybe 7 figures in a year, working for the right institution. So, at the end of the day, I always look at it. The experience is what I get so much from these companies. You can put me anywhere in America, drop me off, give me a couple dollars in my pocket, give me a cell phone, and I can make some money. Okay. I
love it because I don't know if you remember this. So after Georgia won the national championship, they were talking with Stetson Bennett, who was a walk-on, right, at Georgia.
Yeah.
Go from walk-on to winning a national championship. And he had a couple of, where he left the university for a while and came back and all that stuff. But the interesting quote he had was, I just bet on myself. And that's what you did. And that's what I've been thinking about, that quote ever since he said it. And because it's just so fundamental, and that's what you did. And that's what I think holds people back. So, as we begin to wrap up today, what would be your advice to people that are not betting on themselves?
Well, I'll say this to people. We always say, that we want X, Y, or Z. Well, we always say, oh, really, or we may think that I have these, that I set myself and my family maybe on priorities, but it's really all with your actions. I believe, like, we have to have solid people to work for us in our companies as entrepreneurs. So not everybody needs to be an entrepreneur. And so that's something that's key.
Right.
So, because if everybody was an entrepreneur, we have nobody that can actually carry out the business. So that's very important to understand, where you fit. Although I do believe that everybody has the capacity to do something on their own if they so chose to. Now, what I do believe is that we take our monies, we invest in the stock market, and we invest in 401ks and all these things. And what we're essentially saying by doing that and not investing in ourselves is that we trust other people with our money more than we trust ourselves. Okay.
Yeah.
And so we're saying that I'm willing to invest in a company. Somebody can wake up one day and not have a good day and blow their spouse's brains out, and my stock is gone. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. My money is on my lifetime investment. Rather, and I'm not telling people to not invest in the stock market, but all I'm saying is before I would invest in somebody else's business, I think I would want to invest in myself. And it doesn't even necessarily mean business. It could mean you invest in just in learning. Hey, finding some mentors, training. Some of you all may need a little bit of time to train before you actually roll out. But it's taking those risks and those chances on yourself. I believe that, if we can't take a chance on ourselves, we can't tell our kids to take chances on themselves.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
How can we tell our kids, go out here and, do your thing? And we've never taken those chances. We've never really put our faith to the test. The things that we say that we believe, we don't maybe truly believe them because our actions aren't lining up. So
well, it's true. And I think as adults, a lot of times we kind of kill our dreams, right? You would never, we tell our kids all the time, go for it, dream big. And then like we grow up and like, where does that go? I have no idea where that goes. Like life hits us square between the eyes. And then, how many times have you heard people say, well, God, I've dreamed about that for years. And, I'm finally going to make that happen. Or they might say, yeah, I wish I'd have done this years ago. Right.
That is a common thread with all successful entrepreneurs that I've seen, especially that, they always say, man, I wish I would have done this sooner. That was their only regret.
Yeah.
Right. And I hate, and I never want to live my life with regrets. Okay.
So true.
I don't care if I make mistakes. And I tell people, I was talking to some students the other day. I went to go speak to a school, a middle school, and I ended up speaking to them, and I said, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Just don't make the same mistakes twice.
Right.
And so because at the end of the day, when you try anything new, when you step out, you may make some mistakes. And another thing I would say is a lot of times we make decisions because of other people that maybe don't even care about us. Okay. So we may not jump out because we're afraid of what somebody may say or think about us. And we let their opinions really rule our decisions. Okay. And
especially as men, we do this just because, our ID, a lot of times we identify around our job. I mean, it's the second question everybody asks us, what's your name and what do you do?
Correct. But I think an even better question is, what is your name and what is your purpose?
Nobody ever asked that. That is so true, but nobody ever asked that.
They don't ask it because nobody ever really thinks in those terms, because your job may be the thing that you're doing to help fulfill your purpose, right?
Yeah.
And your purpose doesn't necessarily, and I'm speaking to families with this, especially even with mothers, I think, when you talk about, it's a book I read in college, Democracy in America, and it was in my government class, and they talked about how the center of this nation, this young nation in America, how it was growing and really being so successful, and it said that how really the key to a lot of this success was the mother in the structure of how things happen. And so in the household, it talks about various things on that end. But I'm bringing this up to say that when you look at things like, I think a lot of people, we may see, oh, you know what? I'm not out here doing things myself. Well, listen, you may be that mother that ends up raising the next Bill Gates, or it could be the next Mother Teresa or whoever.
Yeah.
Never look at somebody else's purpose, their mission, and thinking that, hey, I want this or I want that. And this is just in life. we have to know that each one of us have something special that's inside of us that's unique, and God created us to solve some problems that are here on earth. And so, our job is to figure out those things as early as possible in life. And I'm gonna be honest with you, man, some people will live to be 80, 100 years old, go to the grave, and never have figured out what they were really here for.
Yep.
Because it's something you have to be extremely intentional about.
Yeah.
And it's something you have to consistently ask yourself and consistently to seek God about, like, what am I here for? What am I supposed to be doing? And that could be a myriad of things. But that is something that if you don't have that on your mind, then you may get to the end of your life and have successful things business-wise, but still may not be fulfilled.
Yeah, it's really true. I mean, and wow. Yeah, that's as much as I hate to wrap up the show today, that's a good place to end. So JR, I know your mom's proud. Speaking of moms, I know you, somebody's got a proud mom for sure. But tell everybody, JR, how can they get a hold of you? Where can they find you? You're doing so many neat things. How can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, most definitely. Well, first off, I want to say thank you for letting me come on to the show and speak to your audience base, Mike. And, if people want to reach me, they can reach me. The best way to reach me is via my website, which is JR McNair. That's MCNAIR.com. You can also, on all the social channels, on Facebook is JR McNair, /JR McNair. And Instagram is /J.R.McNair. On Twitter is JR McNair 1. And like I said, but you can go directly to my site. You can reach out to me. You want to do some of the things, figure out what we have going on and some ways that we can help you start and grow your business. We're here. Let's make it happen.
We'll put it all in the show notes. And if you feel like someday you're down and out and you need JR to help you just feel like you need to run through a brick wall, you could do that too. I love the passion. It gets me motivated. So it was a lot of fun being with you today, and we'll have to do it again soon. Thanks a lot for being on the show, JR.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate it.
God bless. Take care.
You too.